All right, here we go again. David back with another video, and as usual, I'm about to leave the Grand in D'Iberville, Mississippi. It's a little after 10, and got quite a little drive back to the house. And this is my out of the theater reaction, just to get this review started, of Dead Man's Wire, a 2025 film. Now, this was one of those movies that I thought I'd give a try, just to do it. Like I said in previous videos, if there's anything that I think even might have a chance of being good, I try and give it a shot at the theater in my effort to watch more movies at the theater. And I'm having a ball. I love watching movies in the movie theater. And another reason is because Bill Skarsgård was in Barbarian. And I seem to be wanting to give the actors and actresses that were in that movie, because I enjoyed it so much. This is like a spin-off, like a spiritual spin-off. I know it has nothing to do with Barbarian, but I'm just saying as far as why I'm seeing it. I'm watching other movies that those actresses and actresses that were in Barbarian in other movies. So that was why I wanted to give this one a chance. I wouldn't watch something like Pennywise or anything. I'm just not up for that. But this, I didn't realize it for sure until I actually watched the movie. This is based on a true story about an actual kidnapping and an actual dead man's wire, a shotgun wired to a man's neck that if they jerk on it too hard, like, it'll trigger it and it'll blow. It'll pull the trigger. It'll shoot the 12 gauge or whatever it was, and the man will be mortally wounded or outright dead instantly. It's crazy. And I'm glad I caught this movie, and I'm glad I caught it at the theater, because I actually enjoyed it. It got kind of slow in certain places, but it just kept right on. It wasn't overly long when it actually could have been. And the style of the movie I appreciated. They made it sort of a drama, but not really. There were so many quirky bits to it that I was having trouble placing the category of this movie. Is it a comedy? It's based on a true story, and this one thing really tells you everything that you need to know about that bit, about what category to put this in. One of the real life police officers, he's in this movie. And, oh, by the way, I gotta go back and find out who Cary Elwes played. I didn't realize until I glanced at the cast on Google right before I started my recording here that Cary Elwes is in this. And I'm thinking, what in the world was Cary Elwes? I mean, he must have been make-upped big time and wearing a fat suit. He must have been one of the investigators or something, because I'm like, who was he? I didn't notice Cary Elwes in this, but he was in it. And the actor who played Richard did a great job, I thought, for what this movie was and the kind of style they went with it. I thought he did a good job. He looked so familiar to me somehow, but I looked at it on the cast of movies he's been in, his movieography. I didn't notice anything that I've ever seen, but somehow he just had that look of an actor, the way they have them all done up, that he looked familiar, but I don't know, I can't place him from where I've seen him, so I probably haven't seen him. He just has one of those faces. Now, this one example I'm going to give you tells you everything you need to know about the tone of this movie and what you should place it as. Is it a real life historical drama, or is it a comedy? It's kind of both. And it's quite a ride. It's just an entertaining movie about a real life story is what it is. Here's the example. One of the cops, he says this 3 or possibly 4 times in the movie. He just kind of exasperatedly kind of sighs to himself, shakes his head and says, "Oh, what an SHIT show." He says that 4 different times at least 3, maybe 4 different times in the movie. Once when Tony is going out of the building with, he's already got Richard he's got him wired up with the shotgun, and he's having to just kind of let him walk on by, even after trying to talk him down and try and talk some sense to him, tell him, man, you don't want to do this. What are you doing? Come on, this is going to end good. He has to let him go because of the way that he's got the guy wired up to shoot him. It's crazy. And then when Tony successfully takes Richard back to his apartment and is going to make him like he's holding him not even for ransom, but sort of. He's holding him hostage. When the media's circus is showing up, the cop again says it. Man, what an SHIT show. He's like, this is like a circus. And the police are powerless to stop it because of the nature of this capture device, the dead man's wire. The shotgun is literally wired around the man's neck. I kid you not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this down and just start from the beginning of talking about this movie and what I liked about it, what I didn't like, and doing a more thoughtful review whenever I get home tonight. But for now, I just wanted to get that on the table as far as why I saw it and what kind of tone this movie was. It was entertaining, and there were some thoughtful bits, like an actual, almost like a character story in a few moments in this. And I didn't get bored. Like I said, it slows down a little bit too much in the particular style, but it didn't really get boring for me. It started and ended like very well, and especially I gotta say this was an especially good theatrical experience for me because I went in cold, and I'm really liking my style of doing this, not researching anything or watching the trailer too many times or anything, just going in kind of cold on these movies so that I don't know necessarily what's going to happen. I was actually in suspense as to how this ends. They use historical footage. It's so great. Actual 1970s style cars. They had to spend some money to put people back in 1977 Indiana to make this movie, in Indianapolis, and it looks so good with the young black ladies trying to step on up in her news anchor, news reporter gig. She's got the afro rocking. You got the voice of Indianapolis, the suave, smooth voice DJ. I forget his name, but he was a good character in this. You really felt like you were back there. They put you back in time, like almost 50 years. It's crazy, and they did a good job of it with actual historical footage of the way the cars were showing up outside of the firm and outside of the apartment. And then, especially when the credits start to roll, you see a lot of actual footage of the impromptu news conference that Tony insisted on having before they arrested him. With the actual man, you see actual historical footage of the newscast, and he's got the shotgun behind the guy's neck and everything, and what they were saying, and how crazy it was that this actually happened, and everybody's having to kind of go with it because it's a tense situation. And I'm glad I didn't know the actual history that this happened, for one, but also the way that it all ended. It kept me on the edge of my seat in a couple of moments, because I was like, the tone of this movie could really go either way. Part of the way through the movie, I was kind of in despair, because the way the movie plays is the movie wants you to really feel and identify with Tony and his plight, the plight of the little man, trying to fight the man, trying to not be pushed around anymore, that kind of a theme. But at the same time, it has this little inching toward more of a darker tone, where I'm thinking on a couple of parts, you know what, this just might end up blowing up in my face, like that shotgun's accidentally going to go off and kill Richard all of a sudden in a brutal, unexpected fashion. And this movie's going to be one that's like, man, what a downbeat, horrible ending. What a horrible story. Why did I watch this movie? That thought was floating in and out of my mind as I was watching this movie, because I didn't know the story or the history going into it. And I'm glad I didn't, because it made this movie all the better. And now I get to go home and look up on YouTube and Google and familiarize myself all the more with what actually happened almost 50 years ago, because they sure enough made an entertaining movie telling the story. But yeah, I really appreciated that, the whole historical setting and how good it looked. I mean, the camera work inside of the office, the way the shadows worked, when there was one part when Tony is first looking out when the cops are arriving, and he's got Richard all hooked up with the gun, and he's looking. The curtains are to his left, and there's this shadow. There was a scene. It's only a couple seconds long, but I was like, man, that looks good. It really looks like this was filmed in 1977. It was just really well done in that regard. But I'm going to pause this for now and pick this back up whenever I get home. So, till then. Okay, folks, I am back home. It is actually the next night as I resumed this little movie review, and having looked up the box office and budget for Dead Man's Wire, I'm a little bummed. I'm sorry to say, it looks like the movie is just totally bombed. $15 million budget, and it looks like it might actually make less than $1 million. It just did not have a good opening at all. And but let me make sure of that. Yeah, the 2025 independent film Dead Man's Wire, directed by Gus Van Sant, was produced with an estimated budget of $15 million. Whew. I just think that's pretty good for considering what they were able to achieve with the film, the look of it. Because I kid you not, it looks like you're right there back in 1977, man. It is that good. Looks like I was wrong. It looks like it'll be a couple $1 million. So there you go. But still, that's nowhere near a profit, obviously. They say a movie needs to make like 3 times its budget in order to be profitable. I don't really buy into that, such a high number. But anyways, I'm here to tell you about why I like this film and why I'm glad I went ahead and checked it out while it was at the theater, because it's worth it. This little flick did something that I don't often see done. It told a historical account, something that actually happened, and it didn't, in my assessment of it, just based on what I saw last night, it didn't try and make you feel for the I guess we'll go ahead and call him our protagonist, our star, the main character of the film, being Tony Kuritzis, played by Bill Skarsgård. It didn't make you feel too much for him, but it did make you feel a little bit. The movie wasn't heavy-handed in the way it portrays him as trying to pay off a mortgage to buy a piece of property. He wanted to set up tenants and give people a place to rent, have a home, and so forth. And the way he goes about describing this in the film is that, especially in this part of the film where Al Pacino, M.L. Hall, who is like the owner of the mortgage company, he basically tries to shame him when he finally was able to make the phone call, trying to coerce him basically into giving him an apology for railroading him, for cheating him out of his property and so forth, while he's got his son there, Richard Hall, played by Dockery Montgomery, who he did a great job in this film for what he had to be a hostage this whole movie. It was pretty good. This thing where Al Pacino's character basically shames Tony, Bill Skarsgård's character, for basically not having anybody in the world to look after but himself. Like, he has no children, no family or anything, and he basically like jabs him while he's got his this man has a gun on his son, right? And he says that all he wants is an apology from M.L. Hall, and M.L. Hall, Al Pacino, ends up shaming him about how you say your children are your business is your children. You don't actually have kids. You have no mouths to feed
but your own. He's shaming the guy on the photo. I thought this is something else. This man, this is like a legendary thing here. The chutzpah of this guy, that he's gonna be so stubborn instead of just mouthing some kind of an apology to hopefully get his son out of this dire situation of being held hostage at gunpoint and like save his life, that kind of thing. And yeah, that was one of the best parts of the movie, that phone call. And I really liked Al Pacino in this. I told my sister when I got home, even though he's barely in it, I thought, you know what? Even if you have to get old and fat and bloated, this man can still act. I give him that. He was this guy. This was a good character. Maybe a bad character, but what I'm saying by good is he did a good job of it. Al Pacino in this. No, Tony, no. He was not going to apologize for cheating him, or for doing him wrong concerning his mortgage. And you know what? And just so I can get that detail right, let me. I'm going to go ahead and just read a synopsis from AI Google here, and okay, here we go. Dead Man's Wire 2026 is a Gus Van Sant directed crime thriller based on the true 1977 Indianapolis kidnapping of mortgage executive Richard Hall by Tony Kritzis. Kritzis rigged a shotgun to Hall's neck with a wire, threatening death if his demands, including a public apology and debt cancellation, weren't met. Whew. So, there you go. He, and Al Pacino's character even said, what am I supposed to apologize for? That debt works the way that it works? You miss your payments, your debt increases. It's like you're talking to him like he's a dummy, right? And another thing is the way that Skarsgård played this character. It's like he was this man. This was an excellent acting opportunity for him, in my opinion. I mean, the last time I saw him, he was Count Dracula and Nosferatu, and boy, oh boy, was that movie something else. But you can actually see him, and he doesn't have makeup on and a vampire suit in this movie. It was a neat thing for him to do, this movie, and he did a good job of it. I mean, the things he said, how gruff he was, how short he was with people, it's like he was this guy. Bill Skarsgård is a good actor, and in my assessment, in my opinion. And like I said, the reason I watched this was I've been kind of branching off from the film Barbarian, and obviously he's in that where he dies, and so I've done that for Justin Long. I've done it for him and the lady, I forget her name, but she's got 2 movies coming out at once that I'm going to go check out. Let me look her up real quick. I know she's got one coming out. It's called Cold Storage. Let me get her name right. I know I keep talking about Barbarian. Georgina Campbell. And then she's got another one coming out, Psycho Killer. I don't think I'm going to see that. Maybe I will. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air. But back to Dead Man's Wire and why I saw it. I liked Skarsgård in this, and when I got home, I couldn't think of who Cary Elwes was. I'm like, what? I'm looking at the cast. I'm like, he was in this? What in the world was he? And I had to Google his name precisely. He was the cop. He was the cop who said, what an SHIT show, like 3 different times. He's the cop who tried to stop Tony on the street. And that is the point also where you see actual historical footage from what happened. Of course, they don't have the real. What they do is they save it, the real life footage of what happened till the very end, but all throughout the movie you have like a redone or revamped version using this movie with these actors, It's such a neat thing that they did in this movie, man. I wish more movies did this, what they did in this film. That's why I'm appreciating it so much, because he tried to stop him. Like, listen, you don't want to do this, Tony. He's like, oh yes, I do. Yes, I do. And you get out of here. You're gonna follow me. I'm gonna go back to my apartment. I'm gonna take this man to my apartment. That's where I'm going. And he handcuffs him, but he didn't get the key to the handcuffs. He takes the cop's handcuffs, but didn't get the key. So he has to keep Richard handcuffed the whole time. That's who Carrie Ellis was. And then when the media is showing up at the apartment outside Tony's place, he says it again. What an SHIT show, because it's becoming a media circus, and the cops can't do anything except secure the perimeter for that time. And then after everything happens, after the end, after Tony was arrested and Richard was free and everything, he didn't die. Nobody died in this movie. And here I am thinking that this, I, I love it that I went into this movie cold, because not knowing anything helped me enjoy it that much more. And that might be kind of a unique thing. Like if you go and research the news story before you watch this movie, it'll kind of ruin it for you. If you just watch the movie and then look up the details afterward, you'll like it a lot better, because Tony gets acquitted. They have a scene at the end of the movie where the jury finds, and it's announced and everything. The judge looks up like he can't believe what he's about to read, but it is what it is. Our jury system. He says, Tony, please face the bench. And they announce that the jury found him not guilty for a reason of insanity. And as he's leaving the courtroom and everything, Michael Grable, played by Carrie Elwes, the cop, who I could barely recognize him with the makeup he was wearing to make him look like the guy, he says it one last time. He's like, he's watching Tony go down the courthouse steps, with all the media people saying, "Sir, what do you think this means? Are you okay?" And Carrie Elwes says it the final time. What an SHIT show. He can't believe, and I'm watching this movie and I can't believe it either. This guy got off. He didn't even go to jail for that. And I was thinking, how are they going to, halfway through the movie, I'm thinking to myself, how are they going to get this guy out of here? How are the cops going to get Richard out safe without setting the gun off and him dying? How are they going to arrest Tony? How are they going to talk him down? How are they going to make good on all these public promises they're making to cancel his debt and give him like immunity for the kidnapping so he won't be in trouble, and the public apology he's demanding from ML Hall? How are they going to do all this and let him go scot-free? No, I was thinking, I'm actually having like a mental conversation, like I'm trying to work this out in my mind as I'm watching the movie, trying to get the tone of the movie deciphered once and for all. Like, is this a historical piece I'm watching, or is it some downbeat drama where the cops are gonna just all of a sudden up and shoot Tony and maybe Richard too? Because there's this part of this movie where I'm pretty sure that when they're talking, the FBI and Carrie Elwes' character Grable, and the local chief police, and the apartment manager, who was the only person who had spoken with Tony on a regular basis, and so he was like one of the point of contacts the whole time, trying to give whatever information he could. They're sitting around kind of talking about hand motions and how they're going to signal to shoot Tony if it comes to it, and maybe Richard too. I'm pretty sure that they were saying Richard. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I don't want to say it, but I think that's what they were saying. Like, if need be, to keep other people from getting shot, if they have to take out Tony, they might have to take out Richard too. I don't know. I'm not 100% about that, but I think they were at least obviously talking about how they were going to have to shoot Tony at an angle so that it goes out of his head a certain way, the bullet or whatever. And the one guy had to, oh, excuse me, gentlemen, it was making him sick, what they were talking about. He had to go into the restroom and vomit. because it was just kind of grossing him out. Like this is going to be a gory scene right there on live TV, because the whole thing was being publicized at Tony's request. And circling back to what I started to say, and I didn't get out, I like that this movie. Well, let me finish that point first. He got off. He didn't go to jail. And the hilarious thing is I'm telling my sister about this when I got home last night, because I didn't mean to start to tell her about the whole movie, and I really didn't. But I was like, this actually happened. This crazy movie about this crazy story I just saw actually happened. And they have these titles, captions at the end as the music is started, and amidst the credits, it's giving you little pieces of historical information about what happened. And one of the things is relating to what happened to Tony afterwards. He was acquitted by reason of insanity by a jury. He did 2 years in like a psych ward or something under supervision. Then he was going to be released. But he wouldn't sign the papers saying that he needed at least some continued probationary surveillance or counseling or some such thing, because he adamantly was still saying, I'm not crazy. And so they kept him in there a further 8 years before they released him. And I mean released him. And he was under FBI surveillance for the rest of his life until he passed away in like 2005. And that is just crazy. That is just crazy, because again, I was talking to the movie in my mind, trying to sort it all out, thinking like I was the chief of police or something, and saying, look, Tony, you can't just do what you did to this man, putting a shotgun collar up to his neck, and not do some jail time. I can get you out of this, but you gotta understand, you're gonna have to go to jail for a little while at least. Maybe not even a long time, but you just can't get away with doing this scot-free. I mean, literally, for 2 or 3 minutes, I was in this part of the film where Tony has Richard in his apartment, and he's tied him to the chair, and he says, I got it all worked out. I've been rehearsing this for weeks. I was thinking this stuff, and I was like, how does this end? In the 1970s, surely, I guess they're just going to assassinate this guy. They're just going to have to snipe him through the window with a rifle or something. And I was thinking the whole time, because I didn't know how things actually ended in real life, I was thinking, he's just going to get shot in the head or something at random. That's how the movie's going to end, or almost. And it's like a tragedy almost, with Richard having to look at this. I thought it was going to be one of those movies where, I thought this was a story where Richard is going to have a little bit of the Stockholm whatever syndrome, where the more he talked to Tony, and this actually did happen to a degree in the film, when things kind of settled down and he sat across from the table talking about, isn't there anybody in your life, a woman, don't you hope to have children one day? And he said, no, not my children or my business or my children. And Richard even tries to relay to Tony that he knows he's wealthy, he knows he's born with a silver spoon in his mouth and all that. And Tony says, I bet you even have a boat. And Richard's like, we have a boat, yes. So every time he would talk to him. But there was this moment in the movie that was really cool, because Richard is trying to tell Tony, look, growing up with M.L. Hall as your father, it wasn't always a fun walk through the roses for him. Like, it was difficult for him growing up. Growing up to be rich, a person of means, just by virtue of your birth. Tony wasn't fully hearing it, but he did pause just to listen to him as he said, you can imagine maybe what it's like growing up with M.L. Hall as your father. Because he said, you heard the phone call, Tony. And that's what got Tony. That was the neat part of the movie, where he understood. He didn't say anything, but it's like he understood in this quiet moment. Yeah, he basically did say, I'll mourn for my son, just in case you end up shooting him, but I'm not apologizing. That was the message that was read loud and clear by Tony and Richard. And Dockery Montgomery, who played Richard, he had this kind of forlorn, like looking down, like just a beaten, defeated man with nothing to say for himself or anything. He wore this expression so well throughout the whole movie, from the time he got to the apartment on to the end of the film. And he even was made to sleep in a bathtub by Tony. He wasn't taking the cuffs off because he couldn't. He had no key. But he even had a dream, and I thought, this is exactly what I thought might happen to Tony. This bad dream that Richard is having, and he wakes up from it. You hear, as he's looking in the darkness of the bathroom where he's asleep in the tub, a faint light underneath the doorway seal there, and the sound of a door bursting open, and the cops yelling, "Get down, get down, get him, get him, get him!" And Tony's like, what did Tony scream? Skarsgård cusses so much in this. Like he's short with people, and if he's not getting what he wants from the people on the phone, he says, "Now F off." I mean, really, it's like he was this guy. He was Tony Kuritzis in this movie, and he just did such a good job of it. And then all of a sudden, in his bad dream, this bad dream that Richard has, you hear gunshots. It's like, oh no, they just took Tony out and that's the end of the movie. No, it's just a bad dream sequence. The door slowly opens and there's a bloody faced Tony looking down at Richard. And he says the words that his dad, M.L. Hall, had said. You don't shake the tree. You just let the fruit fall from it. Or whatever that weird quote he said earlier in the film when he refused to apologize, like, I'm not giving you what you want, you crazy. What am I? He got off the phone with it and looked at his wife. My son's being held by a madman. What am I supposed to do? And you're thinking to yourself, you would do whatever it takes, right? Even if it was an insincere apology, but he would not apologize, and it's what makes his character, Al Pacino's character in this. It's what makes it. I kid you not, it was glorious. But circling back to what I mentioned about the theme, the style and tone of the movie, how there's that moment in the film, and this is where things kind of slowed down almost a little bit too much for me, when they're in the apartment and all the stuff that happens there. Things pick up at a nice pace, and again, it was suspenseful for me watching the cops come in, not like a SWAT team taking out Tony, but having him sign papers like acknowledging, okay, your debt's going to be forgiven, and all this stuff, and you're not going to be put in jail for kidnapping Richard and all this stuff, and to have it televised and to slowly lure him out to where they would do this actual little TV press conference thing. I was in suspense the whole time, especially because of the scene of these guys standing around the cops when they were talking about when they would shoot him and how they would have to do it, the exact angle they would have to shoot him at to hopefully not hit Richard or anybody else. I was thinking that's how this stuff was going to go down, man. I kid you not. But let me save that until the end. For now, I want to get this out finally. The movie wasn't heavy-handed with what it made you feel like. I know there's a movie called John Q with Denzel Washington where I didn't even see the film, but I remember the premise because the trailer said it all. I think my folks rented it and I didn't watch it. Maybe I got to watch it one day. But what it was like a guy being interviewed outside of this hostage situation by the news. Somebody said, listen, we're with you. You're not the only one going through these things, man. Because you remember in the trailer for John Q, his son collapses while playing Little League. And he has a like a weak heart or something, like he needs medication, and they have no money. And then you see his wife in this intense scene on the phone saying, "Do something, do something." And so Denzel Washington ends up taking some people hostage. Again, I can't remember what all that was supposed to achieve because I didn't see the film. I got to watch it one day. But I just remember that theme of the little man. This is just a desperate man trying to get something done that involves money and resources. He's going to have to watch his son die if he can't get the resources he needs to help him with medical treatment. And similarly, there's other things. There's another movie. I had it in my head earlier, but now I can't remember it. But that movie, John Q. Mad City with Dustin Hoffman and John Travolta. I did see that one. And that's another movie where you can see throughout the movie that the public, the general public who's learning about this active hostage situation sympathizes with the guy. Most of the time it's a man, maybe it's a woman sometimes, but mostly with this guy in his plight and how he's been done wrong, and that's why he's acting out like this. The movie did that with Dead Man's Wire did that with what you can see of what's being televised of the hostage situation and what people are seeing on the TV. Actual news clips from way back when, I kid you not. It was so good the way they intertwined the style of the old footage, revamping it with these actors to make it look just like it did then was just, it was a spectacular thing. I really liked that. But they weren't too heavy-handed with it. They didn't make you, they didn't go overboard with that. They did it a little bit, but it wasn't too much. It was like perfectly balanced because of this almost humorous, I mean, I kid you not, this, how this is, it's a serious thing because there's a guy with a shotgun around his neck, and this other guy's clearly out of his gourd a little bit, unhinged to be doing such a thing to somebody else and demanding an apology and a public apology. It's just, Carrie Elwes, that line, "What an SHIT show," just reverberated throughout this movie. It's like the tone was drama, but also funny. And nobody died in the movie, in the telling of the story, this true story. Nobody died. So it's just a neat movie, the way they did this, and I hate it that it's not getting a better reception than it is. But it's a very enjoyable flick. And at the end, when Tony, I mean, Bill Skarsgård, he did such a good job acting as Tony at the end, when he says, I'm a national hero, and don't you forget it. I'm fighting for everything I own. He put on the voice of the man and the mannerisms and the sayings. He became this guy. And the way they took him down at the end, he ends up cussing at his brother, who was who helped the police to help calm him down, and so he would know somebody to give him some assurance that everything's okay. This is really happening. You're going to have immunity and $5 million, haha, that I stole, ha ha ha. It was so funny. Like, you set me up, you betrayed me, you son of a. And then his brother's like yelling at him, like, no, Tony, no, I had to. It was so good. And then things, of all things, I had to look this up. When did Raindrops Are Falling on My Head come out? When did that song come out? It came out in like the late 60s, I think. And this movie was a story based in 1977, but it fit perfectly. When they arrest Tony and they take him out, leading him through the darkness of the outside there on the way to the cop car and everything, you see this great moment where Richard Hall is reunited with his wife, who he was able to, Tony let him call her up on the phone so she could get some reassurance, some encouragement that her husband's doing okay in spite of having a shotgun pointed right at his throat. You see him like collapse in this ambulance bed, and a single tear falling down his face, as he's still got this stoic look on his face, like of surrender and not helplessness, but I'm gonna stick with that, stoic, because he had kept himself together the whole time. And even when they were doing the press conference thing, well, not the press conference thing, the televised signing of his immunity thing that Tony insisted on, and to get word out like, I'm a hero to the people and all this stuff, Al Pacino's character, M.L. Hall, is watching it televised. You see that? You see that? He's tearing up. He's crying, but look at my son. Look at my son standing there bravely. Not a tear falling. That's a man. That's a man. He did. I forget exactly what he said, but I'm pretty close. But Al Pacino, even it's so insignificant. It's almost like a cameo appearance. But it was such a small role, and yet he did it such a good. He did it justice with those lines that he said. It was great. And Coleman Domingo as Fred Temple, he unfortunately was drugged into this as being the voice of Indianapolis. He's the suave, smooth voice DJ who Tony wanted to be like a go-between, like talking with between him and the cops. He had a good role in this. He was good. And also Mila, I think I'm getting her name wrong. Mila, no last name, who played Linda Page. She is like part of the placeholder historical footage person who was capturing those images way back when. She's like the person who was on the scene trying to do real news while her bosses maybe wanted to give her the cold shoulder or send her to less important things to report on. But she insisted on going and trying to one up the man, trying to get a real news story and do something exciting. And she was good in this. She's the one who gets to talk with Tony's brother, and it's part of what gets him to help in the end. But these people were all so good in this movie, and it just irks me that this film isn't getting as much fanfare as I think it should. But yeah, I think I'm all talked out, folks. You should give this a watch if you haven't, just to see it and just embrace and accept that notion that this actually happened. This is a true story played out by modern actors, but putting you back into that late 70s feel of the look and all the squad cars and the way people were dressed, the way they kept their hair, all the cars, the gritty looking news footage and the old TVs and just everything. I mean, I kid you not, as the credits start to roll, you see images of the actual footage of him holding the gun to the real life Richard Hall, the real life Tony, talking. And they did everything just like they did in the movie. Oh, I'm feeling kind of parched. Give us some water. Give Richard some water. And a guy actually puts the water up to Richard and Tony to give them just to wet their whistle while they were talking during the televised signing of the immunity thing. And he was standing exactly, Richard Hall was standing exactly the way the actor Dr. Montgomery was standing. I kid you not, with the same expression on his face and that look of whatever happens. He's ready to die. This is so outrageous and unbelievable a thing that he's coming to be held hostage by Tony, and he has a shotgun in his back, and it all looked exactly like the movie. The movie looked like real life looked like the movie. It was so neat the way that they did this. But yeah, it was just very entertaining. And now I think I'm all done, folks. I've appreciated the mess out of this movie. I know I've gone on, and I appreciate you listening to me all this while. Go check out Dead Man's Wire. I'm probably going to, as soon as it's available, give it another look just to appreciate, again, how good it looks. Especially that one scene. I kid you not. I'm like, how did they do that? How did they make that look so good? Anyways, till next time, folks. Maybe I'll add a little bit more to this the way I do, but if not, thank you so much for listening to me. Take care.